Every week, the Best Buy savings tables are full of banks you've probably never heard of. Now, you don't have to worry with the ones you see on our savings pages because we ensure that they're legitimate, so you know that you can trust your money is safe. But there are other elements of banking that may be important to you, such as ethics, customer service, account access, those kind of things. So it's worth having a closer look. So, if you're interested in putting your money in one of these smaller banks, here are the questions you should be asking yourself. So, the first thing you want to ask yourself is the bank legitimate? And you can check this by looking on the register of the Financial Conduct Authority to check whether it's authorized. Now, this means it can offer you the services that it's promising because it has the permission from the regulator. Now, it's really important to go and put your money with an authorized firm because you get better protection if things go wrong, and it gives you access to the Financial Ombudsman Service. Now, this is a service, it's free, and it handles disputes between banks and other financial services and its customers. And it's where you escalate your complaint when you don't get an initial satisfactory response. This register is also really useful because it gives you the genuine contact details and the website of the firm, which reduces the risk of dealing with a cloned company that's trying to scam you. It can sometimes be a bit tricky to locate these banks, as sometimes they might be trading under different names, but if you're unsure, it's probably better to look elsewhere anyway. You also want to ask yourself how your money is protected. So, ideally, you want your money covered under the Financial Services Compensation Scheme, which protects up to £85,000 of your savings held with a bank, building society, or credit union. You might find that smaller banks or financial providers may be authorised but aren't covered by the FSCS, which means your money isn't protected under the scheme. However, there may be other ways that providers protect your money. So, for example, if you put your money with an overseas bank, you may be protected under the compensation scheme of their country. However, if something goes wrong, you might face exchange rate issues and potentially problems with communication if you don't speak the language. If we look at electronic money institutions, your money is held in a separate ring-fenced account. So an EMI is a provider like Plum. And in a case where Plum or another provider fails, you would be paid out from the ring-fenced account, but only after insolvency costs are settled. So that's something to consider. Or it may use a partner bank to hold funds. And if this bank is covered by the FSCS, your money will be too. So if we look at CHIP, for example, it doesn't have its own FSCS cover, but all the money is held with ClearBank, which does. If you look at NS&I or National Savings and Investments, you will see that it's not covered by the FSCS either. However, it's backed by the government, so your money is 100% secure. So next, you want to find out about the bank's customer service. Now, this can be really hard to know with smaller providers or ones that you've never heard of, or kind of the new ones that are popping up. If you look at the big banks, it's a lot easier. They have to publish their banking satisfaction survey results every year prominently in the branch and on the website, which shows you how they compare to other banks on the high street and how customers feel about them. You're also more likely to have friends and family who use the bigger banks, and they can tell you of their experience as well. So with smaller banks, the first place to start is on Google. So Google the reviews, find out what other customers are saying about their experience with the bank. Also check the reviews on Smart Money People, our sister site, which is completely focused on the financial services. You can also check the contact details on the website and find out if that's the right mode of communication that you prefer. For example, I love a phone number, and I probably wouldn't use a bank that didn't have a phone number because that's how I want to be able to speak to customer services and get any issues sorted out. But you might be comfortable with email or online chat features, but have a look on the website and see what it's offering, and then test it. Give it a call, see how long it takes to answer the phone if it has a phone number, or how long it takes to get back to you, and see if you're satisfied with that. You also want to ask yourself if you're happy with the way that the bank allows you to access your money. So a lot of these smaller banks might be digital only, which means they've got no branches, which is fine if you're happy with that way of managing your money. Having branches doesn't make a bank any more legitimate than one that doesn't, but it is all about your preference. So I think as well with these kind of digital only banks, they're kind of geared up to provide a digital only service. So they're quite good at what they offer. And I think when it comes to savings, a lot of the time people aren't touching them. So you're not going to need that much back and forth or that much by way of kind of communication, especially if you've got some of the longer term savings accounts, such as, fixed rate bonds. But again, it is up to you, and it's a consideration when you are looking at these banks. And lastly, who is this bank? This is more to do with banking ethics, and if this is a priority to you, you'll want to know a bit more about the provider and what they're funding to ensure that they align with your values, because it's not always clear. So, for example, you might have noticed that Israel and Qatar have been subject to boycotts in recent years, yet your money might be sitting in banks with headquarters there. For example, UTMB, which stands for Mizrahi-Tefahot Bank, is an Israeli bank, and it's a similar story with QIB, which stands for Qatar Islamic Bank. Both have offered top rates recently, and you might have seen them in the Best Buy tables. However, this isn't just a problem with smaller banks. Larger banks aren't particularly ethical either. You might find if you kind of dig deep, they are investing in fossil fuels and other types of areas that you might not agree with. However, there are some ethical, sustainable banks out there that you can find. So, for example, some banks like Triodos, they have ethical policies, while building societies such as Nationwide must lend 75% of their funds to home buyers, meaning that they don't really have that much cash to invest elsewhere. You might also be interested in Sharia banks such as Al Rayyan and Bank of London and the Middle East, which that you might often see them in the Best Buy tables as well. So these banks, because of Islamic law, they can't use customer money to invest in things that go against it, such as tobacco, arms, or gambling and things like that. So, should you put your money with a smaller bank? I can understand why people may feel concerned about these smaller banks, but if they're covered by the FSCS, they're just as safe as the more established providers on the high street. You'll get a much higher interest rate than high street banks and maybe even better customer service. But do go through the checklist above and see if you're happy with what it's offering. Remember, me, Andy, and the team are updating our Best Buy tables twice a day at becleverwithyourcash.com/savings. So head there to see who's offering what. Thank you so much for watching. Check out these videos here for more ways to make the most of your money.